one image of a desk drawer that contained two photos of Donald Trump. Here is the Deputy Attorney General this morning.
There were a number of photographs that were pulled down after being released on Friday. That's because a judge in New York has ordered us to listen to any victim or victim rights group if they have any concerns about the material that we're putting up.
Joining me now, Democratic Congressman from Virginia, James Walkinshaw. He is a member of the Oversight Committee. Congressman, welcome to the show here. So your committee is calling this a cover-up. Are you satisfied by the Deputy Attorney General's response there?
No, I'm not satisfied. I think if the rest of Friday's release had been in compliance with the law, and if this administration and Department of Justice hadn't done everything they could up to this point to cover up what's in these files, then perhaps we could take the Deputy Attorney General's word with respect to these 16 files that have been pulled down. But given their extreme efforts to prevent the country from seeing what's in these files, I don't have confidence in his explanation with respect to these 16. And with respect to the one photo of the desk or credenza that included a photo of Donald Trump, if that image included an image of a woman, a survivor or victim, that face could have been blacked out as they were in many other photos that have been released. Instead, they pulled down the entire photo. So the response doesn't inspire confidence. We have to keep pressing to get those 16 files to the public and the rest of the files.
Well, we should note they did allow the photos of former President Bill Clinton with female figures, and their faces were redacted. We don't know who they were, whether they were victims, associates in any way by choice. But anyway, let's talk about the drip, drip, drip of the files, some of them heavily redacted. It has disappointed a lot of victims who advocated for this law, but there have been some new revelations. There's the 1996 FBI child pornography complaint about Epstein. It's from Maria Farmer, who vindicates, it at least does that, this one Epstein survivor. Is the DOJ carefully taking its time with redactions and will give the victims what they have fought for, or are they violating the law?
Well, look, I think that document shows exactly why we need to press to get the full files released. It shows that Maria Farmer's government, the United States government, failed her like it failed all of the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's crime. She courageously came forward in 1996. She was ignored, and we know that so many of the survivors and victims have been ignored by their government for too long. And that's why we're pushing for transparency that we hope will lead to real accountability for all those involved in Epstein's crimes now.
And Congressman Ro Khanna says that he and Representative Massey, again bipartisan here, are going to hold Attorney General Pam Bondi in contempt and have previously said they are considering impeachment. Senator Tim Kaine says there are more effective tools to force DOJ compliance. How about you? What do you think is the best approach?
I think when Congress returns in January, if the law has not been complied with respect to the full release of the files, then we will need to force a vote in the House. And I think there will be Republicans supportive of a vote in the House on either inherent contempt or impeachment of the Attorney General. And, you know, folks in Congress, Democrats and Republicans, will have to choose yet again whether they want to side with the survivors and victims who are calling for full transparency, or with the Trump administration, who continues to cover up for this rapist Jeffrey Epstein and all those who are involved in his crimes. And I think if that vote takes place, Congress will stand, I hope, with those survivors and victims.
On a different note, and in terms of something Americans have to choose between, lawmakers left town for the holiday, leaving Americans in a tough position because according to a new NPR poll, more than 70% of people say their household expenses match or exceed their income. And now with Congress not acting on health care, more than half of Americans are concerned their household will be unable to pay for health care services in 2026. What do you, sir, tell your constituents who say the government's not looking out for them?
Well, President Trump says that things aren't going well in the economy because his policies haven't kicked in yet. Unfortunately, his economic policies are kicking hardworking Americans in the face right now. We have seen grocery prices skyrocketing. We've seen the cost of everyday goods, including holiday gifts, skyrocket during this holiday season. But healthcare is the biggest. And this Congress, a Republican Congress, passed the biggest cut to healthcare in American history, $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, despite the successful discharge petition to force a vote on a clean extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credit. Speaker Johnson sent Congress home for a holiday vacation without acting. We will vote in January to extend the tax credits that Americans desperately, desperately need to prevent their health care premiums from skyrocketing. So I tell my constituents, I'm fighting to get that vote to extend those tax credits, which will help tens of thousands of folks here in Virginia and the community that I represent and millions across the country.
All right, Congressman James Walkinshaw, thank you so much for your time, sir, and happy holidays.
You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation. You can feel it in the air. There's a tension and anticipation.